Good morning, good morning, good morning. We are here on the Expert Show, and it's David from I Need an Expert, your online marketing platform for local experts in your area. Every week on a Wednesday at this time, we introduce a CEO to you on the Expert Show in collaboration with the CEO Business Club. So today I would like to introduce to you a very, very special guest, Pepe Marais, Group Chief Creative Officer and founding partner of Joe Public United. Pepe is also the chairman of One School at a Time and the author of Growing Greatness, 20 Habits that Break Habits. Looking forward to learning more about that. The Joe United company is a company that is 100% South African owned and believes in growth, its people, its clients, and South Africa as a whole. Whether you need above the line or below the line or digital PR or brand design, Joe Public can help you. Their integrated thinking is always grounded in strategy, and they always collaborate to bring your idea into a much bigger idea. So welcome, Pepe. So good to have you here.
Thanks, David. Great to be here.
Fantastic. Pepe, let's get into it. Your company, what problems do your potential customers have that you solve?
So we started from scratch in 1998. So we started with very small clients. We trade in the marketing space. So any brand that needs advertising, that needs to advertise their product to their markets, approach us. Over the years, as we grew up, so we're 25 years old next year, we started attracting big blue chips. So at the moment, we only offer services to the massive, like the blue chip brands in South Africa, the likes of Nedbank, breweries, Chicken Licken, Cell C, and a host of others. We've got about 50 clients in our books. But as a large, clients come to us with a product which they want to take to market in order to sell that product. And we design the marketing strategy, the media implementation plans, and the creative that fills those spaces in order to fulfill that need.
Oh, wonderful. So basically, do you actually help to develop the brand itself and then take it through all the way through to the end, and then the actual campaigning of that product or service right up until the end and continue until it's they change the service itself?
So a bit of both, you know. When we work on a brand like Nedbank, which has obviously been in the market for much longer than us, we pitched on the business, I think 2011 or 12. So it's about a decade that we've worked with them, partnered with Nedbank. So in that instance, we work on a portion of the business, taking their products to market through various channels, whether it's television, print, etc. But we have worked, you know, we worked with USAID. I think in 2009, we created a brand called Brothers for Life. So in that instance, because we've got a design capability too, we actually conceptualized the name of the brand, Brothers for Life, designed the corporate identity, then put the whole plan around taking it to market. It was dealing mainly with men in the context of HIV/AIDS in South Africa. Like amazing opportunity that we had to work on that piece of business, but there we created from scratch. And that sometimes happens, not that often, because smaller brands that's at infancy stage don't really have at that stage the money to put into marketing. You know, the marketing budgets that we deal with is anything from 100 million to 1 billion in terms of marketing spend of those clients. So in order to spend that sort of money in marketing, you need a substantial business. So we've matured into servicing the upper end, but still, I say that we've got a part of our business called takeaway advertising, which is project work, which allows smaller brands to get into our doors, depending on what their need is. So yeah, very interesting phase. I almost find we're at the beginning now of becoming a proper business. You know, like it's like adult, like a child. You go into adulthood now in your early 20s. You start up, and I suppose you only start really maturing in your 30s and 40s. So let's see where this business grows.
Wow, that's fantastic. I love it. And so I wanted to learn a little bit more about your process of the solution that you offer these various businesses. How do you do that?
So we're very strategically led. I mean, I'm extremely proud. Our one partner, we have quite a bunch of partners in the business now. We're very, very fierce about diversity because we're a creative industry or creative company. And diversity is the cornerstone in our view of creativity. So we're very diverse, and hence we've really supported and drove transformation in the business. But our strategic partner, I would safely say, is the best in our industry. So we're a very strategically driven business. So when we look at marketing, we work on insights, sort of really figure out what is that core target market that the client wants to target. And you target those markets through various media channels. And it's dependent on so many factors, and also depending on budget. And then based on the insights of those markets and the relevance of the product to that market, we try and find insights to create creative communication that resonates with those customers. Because in the end, what you do as a marketing or advertising agency, you don't change behavior. You just change, shift the consumer's choice from one product to another product. And we do that through strategic insights, quite a bit of research in terms of finding those insights and understanding the market, and then finding an angle strategically that differentiate the one client from another. Because in any sector, like banking, you'll find there's top 4 banks in South Africa and probably like a host of newcomers. So you've got a key 5, 6, 7 different competitors that you have to differentiate yourself from. So we work hard to differentiate our clients strategically and then creatively deliver on that strategy.
Fantastic, fantastic. I love the idea of what you said, that you basically started small and have had grown this into, servicing all the corporates. In that statement I read in the beginning, you said that you are 100% South African, and you also, I saw also that you are 60% Black owned, which is fantastic. And then I saw also that you basically are dedicated to serving South Africa. Do you actually look at only South Africa, or do you also look at other companies within Africa itself?
Okay, so as I said, this drive, the 60% Black owned, majority of the people that own that shareholding sits within the business. So we've had 3 of our executives have been with us for 15 years, which we empowered with equity in the business. And I would say it's twofold. On the one side, it's deserving because they've been with us for so long, and they're at the top end of our people. They were already at executive level before they got their shareholding or bought into the shareholding. And the other part is, of course, in order to be able to trade, because the bigger clients have got, and ourselves, we do have the triple BEE scorecard, which we have to comply to. But I think because of our purpose, this notion of growth of our country, if we buy into the growth of our country, we have to buy into transformation and supporting what is most needed in our country, which is job creation, especially in our mass market who's without jobs. And it's frightening when you look at the numbers. So there's that aspect of the business in terms of being transformed. But then also what I've learned, I'll quickly touch on it. When you have a business and you employ a couple of 100 people, and in time maybe 1,000 or more people, you want those people to be engaged with your business. And I can guarantee you, a woman working in a business will engage more in a business that has female leadership. A white young man will engage more in a business that's got a white guy at the top. A Black young guy will engage more in a business that's got a Black leader at the top. So the more diverse your leadership team, the more engaged your people, and the more they feel at home. So that's just logic, but I've also seen it in operation of the business. The high levels of engagement is directly linked to the diversity of our leadership team. We do operate on a small level in Africa based on our clients' need. We're very focused on the South African market. There's still huge room for growth for us in this market. We are top in our industry, but not by size. So by output, we top, number one. But in terms of scale, we've got huge room for growth. But we are also operating in Europe. We've got 2 offices, Joe Public in Amsterdam and in Antwerp. And we are looking at global expansion in time. But at the moment, we're really focusing on South Africa.
Oh, wow. Joe Public, such a fascinating name. And I'd really love to hear the story of how you came up with that name. And, from the launch, maybe a brief history of your company, because I believe you faced bankruptcy and a whole lot of things. So it wasn't just roses from the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Pepe?
Yeah. I think because I'm very motivated and inspired by ideas. And I heard a saying quite a few years ago. I was in Canada at a profound workshop for business leaders. And I heard this saying that the most valuable sort of space that you can buy, property that you can buy, are graveyards, because that's where everyone's dreams end up. And it was so profound because we all have dreams, but we don't take action and put those dreams into action. We kind of always dream of wanting to do something, but we never take that step and just do it. And I think when we had this idea of which I believe would have and still can revolutionize advertising, it was called takeaway advertising. So it was, let's take this model of advertising and rather skin it and turn it into a restaurant where you've got rare, medium, and well-done ideas. And based on a price point on a menu, you sell the ideas for value, which contradicts how the industry works, because we charge time. So we almost incentivized to be slow and processed with lots of reverts, because that just means we accumulate more time and we can charge more. So we're not really incentivized to charge for the quality of our thinking. And the takeaway model turned that on its head and said, look, we're going to give you quality thinking. Whether I come up with it in 1 minute or 1 hour, it's the same rate. And takeaway advertising is what got me to leave my job. Quite a well-paid job back in it was only 29, so it wasn't that well-paid, but it was a pretty good job because it was good at what I did. And it got me to give up that job and start from scratch with nothing. So the power of the idea is what got us into the market. And then we sold our business 3 years after launch, 100%. And for 8 years, I worked for a corporate advertising network that's listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And I got the insight of what it feels like to work, to be a slave to a system where thousands of people enrich as one. And that was not a great journey, but it really, I think without it, we would not have turned down international offers to buy our business in the last couple of years, because we know what it's like to work. So now we're proudly South African, and our purpose is our mandate to remain 100% South African owned by ourselves. So we sold the business and then bought it back in 2009 in the middle of that recession. And that because of that recession is when we faced bankruptcy. We also lost a big client and had to retrench half our business overnight. And then pretty much restart in 2009, 2010 with nothing after a decade of working ourselves to the bone. And that's where this insight of purpose for business, I had a very personal experience on life purpose. And I felt it was so profound that I had to bring that thinking into our business. And kudos to my partners who supported me in this obsession of mine. And we brought purpose into the business and collectively rebuilt this business based on its purpose. And it's fascinating because I see so often in the corporate world that our top priority is the bottom line, which incidentally is called the bottom line. It should be at the bottom of our priorities, but we've put it at the top. And we all, when we think of growth, we just think of revenue growth. We don't realize that revenue growth is a byproduct of something far more visionary than money. And I think that shift in thinking is what really switched the financial abundance of the business on.
Wow. I love that Pepe. I mean, this is such a revolutionary idea, and I love the menu type of idea of, taking, choosing what you need and then actually skinning it down, as you said. I wanted to ask you a little bit about yourself. I mean, you're an author of this wonderful book. You've got 2 books, I believe. I mean, I love that the sound, which is, the name of the book, which is 20 Habits That Break Habits. I mean, that's amazing. And perhaps you could tell us a little bit about yourself and how you, how you became an author. And I believe now you're studying for your doctorate. I mean, this is amazing that you are on a continual growth to self-learning and self-development. And I'd love to learn a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So if I really go all the way back, I was born into a home of a very loving mother and then a lunatic alcoholic father. So, and this is what I find in leadership, we don't work on enough. We're not conscious of how that first 7 years of our lives impact us as leaders in adulthood. So that very traumatic experience of my first, I would almost say 10 years of my life, always sat in my unconscious, and it made me quite a, people would have said he's very passionate, but I look at it and say very aggressive, very argumentative and very hard and ruthless. So through the years, I think what happened was that turning point when we faced bankruptcy that shifted me, because working so hard, I started working at the age of 12. I started delivering newspapers. I worked for income from a very early age. And I always aspired to be rich because I came from a home incomparable to the poverty that's still seen in the townships of our country as a privileged white South African. But still, we had the church feeding us. So it's not like really growing up with little means. Because when you have the church bringing you food, there's a bit of a problem. And hence I started working to assist my mum at times to feed us, because she was a teacher. And we all know teachers who should be paid the same salaries as lawyers are paid less than we pay someone with 3 years experience in advertising. Which is just insane. Be it as it may, I mean, I think that starting to work early in my life really gave me that burning desire to become an entrepreneur unconsciously. But then as the business grew, I realized that my leadership skill was not at the level that it should be. So I started doing a lot of work in terms of just self-discovery through various processes. And it turned out that I am naturally inclined to embrace self-growth. So anything, no matter how radical it is, I'll go and be the guinea pig. And if I find value, then I propose it to bring it into the business. So I'm like the guinea pig of the business. But, growth, as with leadership, is an ongoing journey. I mean, I have such massive gaps in terms of a leader. I make such profound mistakes, not daily anymore, but at least once a week. I still fail. So it's an ongoing journey. But if I have to look at where I was a decade ago in my behavior, in my leadership skills, in my leading of people, it's chalk and cheese, but it's a never-ending journey. I think, I aspire, if I look at leadership, I aspire to not that I would ever necessarily achieve it. And that's quite interesting. It kind of links to vision. It's so true that it's never about the vision. It's actually living every day towards that vision. That's what gives you that sense of fulfillment. It's not having to achieve a vision. It's great having this, there's a place we're going, but whether we get there is irrelevant. It's that every single day committed to going there that gives me fulfillment. And I would say it gives human beings fulfillment. But my sort of North Star in terms of leadership, I look towards, that behavior of all the writings on a person like Jesus Christ, not like I'm this church-going Christian guy, but which I'm not. I'm probably a closet Christian because that's what I was brought up. But I joke, I say I'm a Muslim Hindu crew, like Christian, like whatever. Like I believe in something even greater than, but that level of leadership. And Nelson Mandela. I took my son everywhere all over the country now to go and just the Nelson Mandela capture site, and took him to the beautiful exhibition of Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who incidentally christened my son. Or our son. It's not my son, it's my wife's son. He's entrusted to us. So yeah, so it's just been such an incredibly fulfilling journey of growth and leadership over the past, specifically past 15 years since I found purpose in my life. But it's an ongoing journey. And I think this is what's most needed in business and in our country today is leadership.
Fantastic. You know, you mentioned earlier that you're the Group Chief Creative Officer. Obviously, you're the founder of Joe Public, but as the Group Chief Creative Officer, what is your role within the business itself at this time? You say that you're like the guinea pig, but if you could maybe explain a little bit more about that, Pepe.
Yeah, it's like in my personal life, I've got two great loves, my wife and my guitar. So like I cheat on my wife with my Gibson. So because I'm also a bit of a closet musician, and there's a long story why behind that one. But so I find myself, I wouldn't call it a conundrum, but it's sometimes quite challenging to balance, because my academic journey is linked to this notion of personal purpose and business purpose in particular, and potentially purpose for our country. So there's this massive passion that I have for purposeful servant spiritual leadership, leading companies to way beyond just product and profit. And then on the other side, I'm this extremely obsessive, in a good way, a positive obsession, because I think obsession can be negative, but a really positive obsession for creative excellence. So within the business, I'm in charge of our creative product. So like the Wozniak, probably the Wozniak of Apple. Like I aspire to build like an ad product at least that in time could be maybe as beautiful as the Apple products, which I just absolutely love. I mean, I'm speaking to you from my MacBook Pro. But so I'm really, my day job is driving and inspiring and creating the environment that nurtures ideas and trust, and, you know, like giving people the opportunity to come up with ideas and then take those ideas like little children and grow them up into really beautiful creative communication that really resonates with consumers. I mean, when we post some of our advertising or run some of our campaigns, we get up to 4,000 comments on Facebook.
Wow.
And to get that on advertising, which, you know, often is said to be the second worst job to a used car salesman. So that's my two role. The other role in the business is then I'm in charge of the vision and the purpose first and foremost, and the vision of the business. And that then links to my side hustle, which is working outside of the business with businesses and executive teams, probably not more than 4 to 6 times a year. I can afford my time to try and inspire teams to buy into this notion of purpose beyond profit and product.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? You mentioned that you have these retreats, these CEO retreats, and how, and you know, who goes to them, and what's the purpose of those various retreats? Yeah.
So there's an immense amount. If you Google purpose for business, you'll find McKinsey global reports, books written on it, books like Firms of Endearment. You know, the founder of Whole Foods, John Mackey in the States, is like renowned for purposeful leadership. So there's a lot of talk for the last 12 years globally on leading with more purpose. But implementation of purpose is the Achilles heel. One thing to say you're purpose driven. Even our business, for 10 years, our intention was pure, but we weren't really living it. And COVID forced us to really embrace it even more. But for me, if the leader of the business is not clear on his or her own purpose, then how can she lead the business with purpose? So the workshop I designed for executives, and again, it's something I'm doing, it's at a beta phase, I would say, if I would sort of coin it, well, borrow a fancy term for it, but I had profound feedback from it when I ran it, and it's to empower these CEOs with what could be their personal purpose, because I think leadership starts with understanding yourself first. You know, you can't, it's like lead by example. If I stopped drinking because I work with township kids, now I can't ask those children not to abuse alcohol or drugs if I'm on the side doing the same thing. It's just the way I operate. So I completely cut it out of my life in order to, when I stand up, I know that I can speak with authority. So similarly, I do feel, I mean, I've often shaken the hands of CEOs and then I feel very wet, clammy. So I can feel the intense pressure on that person. And I think it's because of lack of clarity within ourselves often. You know, we have businesses that's got strategy at its core and 5-year plans. But when you ask someone, what's your 5-year plan? What is your strategy? Most people don't know. So I do the work to help people find what's their ultimate strategy for life, because then suddenly it creates, you've got clarity and you've got a direction for your personal life, which you can apply to your household as much as to the business that you lead. And I'm super passionate about it because that was my journey. And that's why I wrote my 2 books, is to just share that knowledge. And of course, it's not my way or the highway, that's one way, but it really worked phenomenally for myself.
Yeah, clarity of purpose. I love that. I think I heard in one interview that I saw that you said, what's your secret to building business? And you said, clarity of purpose. So I think that's fantastic. And I love the way that you actually mentioned it, that, you know, getting companies, CEOs together to actually help them to do that, because a lot of people, as you say, you know, they can't really tell you. So that leads me to my next question. For the next 5 years, where do you see yourself in your business?
So, David, I just want to step one back. You know, as much as I do that work on a personal level, what I've actually done more of is working with execs. I had an exec team, and I've done quite a lot of them now at a high level. And I'm very excited by them because, of course, maybe that's something, some value I can full-time do in the future. But right now, I'm more invested in our business because I'm loving what I do so much. So I've got this affair on the side. By no means confused. And I know where my focus goes. That goes towards Joe Public and our product. The other stuff I do very sort of selectively, and I normally put in a day's leave. But I've worked with an executive of every single one of the executive teams that I've worked with. I'll start in the beginning and I'll ask them, say I work with the exec team of 10 people, and I say to them, write down the one word that you, just one word, because communication is very complex. So you need to simplify. Your starting point needs to be really simple. I ask them, write down the one word you believe this business exists for, other than money. And then I'll get 10 different answers. So then I will say, well, you employ 2,000 people, and if your 10 execs don't know what you stand for, how does your people know what you stand for? Like, how do they know what they're coming to work for? And that normally switches people on, because it's quite a logical equation. How can you have 10 different answers for why you're in business, and you've got 2,000 people coming to do that job? And that's even when I say, even for, add money to the pot, you'll get 3 or 4 out of 10 go money, but the other 6 go other stuff. So I work to find that clarity at exec level, which they can then implement into their businesses. So I just want to quickly touch on that. The next 5 years, I really always, if I think sustainable business practice, you know, we always we assume people go into business just to make money for themselves. And often it happens like that. And founders sell their businesses, make a lot of money, and then that business fails. That to me is not a great business. In America, the average business lifespan used to be 60 years plus on average. It's reduced down to 18. Now that could be with technology change and business not innovating, but I think it's also linking to business not having purpose. Because once the founder leaves and there's not a profound purpose in the core of the business, the next leader comes in and tries to do his or her own thing. And soon that business fails. So for me, a business has always been like a child. My son's just gone through 13 into 14, the rite of passage. At 13, this business went through significant shift because it went almost bankrupt and then found purpose. And now it's gone into the 20s and it's starting to find its feet. So it's going into adulthood now. So it's got so much more to do. I'm not even thinking, I'm thinking like blocks of 25 years, but for the next 5 years, I would say our absolute focus, in fact, not to say, I know for a fact, this is our focus for the next 5 years, is to make our product the number one in the global industry. So currently we're number one with our product. In terms of the excellence of our creative product, we're number one in the country for 4 years now. But we're in quite a under pressure average industry. Not because of the people in it, but because 90% of the business of all the ad agencies are owned by America. So when that happens, the business starts working to pay for its shareholders offshore. So whereas what you should be working for is to serve your customers. That's why you're in business to serve your clients. You're not in business to serve your shareholders in America. So there's been a shift in focus on on your core focus. So for us, it is, and the best way we can serve the growth of our clients is to do better and better campaigns for them. And advertising, it's appalling, the quality of advertising, globally even, because everyone's forgotten what advertising is about. So our focus will be to continuing daily improve our product, because that's the best way we can serve the purpose of this business, is through the quality, the excellence of our product. And in doing so, we've got a global ranking list of our industry players, and we have shifted. It took us quite a while, but we were 49 in the world, and we've now shifted to 36. So it's not impossible to believe that we could make top 20 in the next 2 years and potentially top 10 in the next 3 or 4 years. So that's the immediate focus, and the only driving force behind this focus is the purpose of the business, because the purpose of the business is to serve the growth of our people, our clients, and our country. And we can only do that through the greatness of our product. If we look at Apple, one of the most valuable companies in the world, it's only that valuable because of the value of its product. If it had a crap phone and a terrible computer, it would never have become the most valuable company in the world. So value is directly equated to the value that you bring through your product. But then if you look at Steve Jobs, he believed that he wanted to help unlock human potential through his product. So his purpose was greater than his product. And I think that's why he succeeded to the level that he did. Who am I to comment on Steve Jobs, But that's also what we do. Who am I not to, You never know. You never know where we, do you know I'm going to be one day? Well, you never know. And we tend to shoot ourselves short. South Africa has spawned the greatest human being since Jesus Christ. And it's spawned the richest man on the planet. And still we don't believe that we are potentially the greatest nation on this planet. We've gone through apartheid into a new South Africa with its challenges. But having just seen the half of our country and the beauty of it, we've got the most beautiful country in the world. We just need to get our leadership right. We just need to literally somehow find a way to wake the leaders up that are in the position to lead this country and shake them, the selfishness out of them, because all they do is self-serving. They've left the mass population behind. But if you look beyond those challenges, we are potentially a country that could become a shining example to the world. There's no doubt in my mind. And that's what I want to be part of that in whichever little way. So yeah, so in 5 years, potentially being in the top 10, maybe even top 5 towards being the best in the world at what we do.
Fantastic. I love that. I love that, Pepe. You're talking about obviously being the best and so on. Obviously, one needs to understand and always understand who your competitors are that offer similar type of products, etc. And there are some in South Africa, and there are obviously people overseas. And that. What are your feelings about the competition, and how do you go about assessing them? Do you do that on a daily basis? How do you do that?
We don't. For me, like, and again, I'm sorry, I went on a little rant there almost, but but like I always refer to Apple, and I suppose it's because we all hear the negative things about Jobs, but look beyond that. Just look at the creation, that obsession with absolute excellence, and it's almost as if what they've done as a brand is they lift themselves out of the competition, so they didn't compete. And I'd like to think what we're working towards is not to have to compete, is to actually lift ourselves just out of, like, if we've got, like, the Oscars has done an immense amount of good for the film industry, similarly as the Grammys done immense amount of good for the music industry. It's created this sort of hierarchy of talent through a system. But neither Beyonce or Steven Spielberg, I would argue, do what they do to win awards. But there is a measure in those industries that can show that these are the top artists. And we've got a similar system in our industry globally. The trick is just to remain very, very steadfast on the purpose of your business, especially of ours, if I speak for ourselves, and understand that money is like, awards is like money. It's a byproduct of something else. But we've got this system, but sometimes you could think beyond the system and you could say, but why can't we win a Nobel Prize? And it's not about winning the Nobel Prize, it's starting to think about how should we think? At what level of solutions must we think to open this business up to be recognized at that level? That's kind of thinking outside of the competitive set, like for me, it's that kind of thinking. So beyond just winning awards, how can we put a system in place that really measures the growth of people? And, the normal business practices have 10% top people, have like 70% in the middle, and then 20% at the bottom that you can turn. Why can't you have 100% at the top? And how valuable will your business be if you have 100% people that are indispensable, that you cannot do without? So it's those kind of thinking that I think will take your business outside of competing. Because what really differentiates us is excellence, and there's a true lack of that in general. We're very fast to point finger at the government and say they're not excellent. But I have experienced non-excellence with one of the top, I won't mention the brand, one of the top car brands in the country. I've experienced the most atrocious level of slackness and non-excellence because they're dealing with a small little portion market that buys their vehicles. I was appalled. So the level of excellence in general, in terms of service delivery, after sales service delivery, even product delivery is average. So just by being excellent, you can already differentiate yourself and build a powerful business, because there's so little of that.
Thank you, Pepe. You're absolutely right. And, I'm also an Apple fan. I've also got my Mac Pro and my iPhone 11 Pro, and everything around me is Apple. So I can understand that, that differentiation, actually setting yourself and actually not competing. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, Apple doesn't, if you've got an Apple computer, you can actually see the quality of our pictures on the screen right now. And I'm not using any other thing except my Apple. And the quality of the voice is excellent. Everything's great. So, you can see the difference. It's just, it's a step.
Yeah, now that's so interesting. So now phones used to have like multi buttons, and Apple was the first one to say one button. I mean, you wouldn't even think of that. That's why they don't research that, because if they ask consumers, consumers go, you'd never do that. Don't research. But what's interesting is both you and me now become salespeople for Apple, because look how we speak about it. It's like Woolworths. Woolworths, probably one of the few, and I'm advertising Woolworths. So you might argue that if you're more purpose-led and more motivated by excellence, you might not even need an ad campaign because your customers become your advocates. You know, but Woolworths, if you go back to 1930s, where the company was founded by, I think the gentleman's surname was Sanlam, but I don't know actually, but I'm going to, whatever his name was, 1930s, he was very clear that he wanted to bring quality at an affordable price to the market. Quality was at the root word was quality. For my doctorate now, I'm going to research it, and I want to really, next time, if I ever get interviewed on this subject, I want to say 73 out of 100 people know that Woolworths stand for quality. So now suddenly, because the brand, and it's the only brand in South Africa, if I had to research it, that will have a high proportion of people saying it stands for one word, and it will be the same word. I'm not sure what level it would be yet. I'm hypothesizing at the moment. But now, when you suddenly go on a Sunday and there's no food, you blame yourself for not going on Saturday. You don't blame the brand, because the brand's done such a good job of quality. So you start. So that's the power of purpose, and the power of simplicity, and the power of standing for something very, very clear in the consumer's mind. So applying that to a business, you can lift yourself out of the competitive set by finding that differentiating word. But to do it in a logical way is often not the right approach, you know, because if I had I'm very fond of a gentleman named Ian Furr, who founded Sorbet, the group, in his early 50s. He started a new business. I mean, he started working at like 10, but then he founded a new business in his early 50s and sold it in his 60s. But if I take someone like Ian's business, and if I had to do a workshop and I'm looking, well, let's not take Ian's business, but a company of beauty stores. If I had to use my logic and say, okay, what's the one word that this company stands for? I would say beauty. I would. Like, what does a creative agency stand for in advertising? Creativity. The trick is not to use your logic. It's to dig deeper, because beauty is but skin deep. So you got to dig deeper. And when you start asking a bit of questions, you realize that the customers that come in often feel sort of lack of confidence and not good enough. And when you give them a beautiful makeover and a treat and a good chat, they leave with more confidence. So maybe the root word of the business is confidence. And when you sell confidence, it's such a far more richer territory to market. It's a far greater reason for your people to come to work. Rather than just do someone's nails and make them pretty, I'm giving them confidence. That even builds the confidence of the person that works within the business. So it's very important, if ever any business goes on the search for what's my greater purpose, not to go for the obvious. Like ours is growth. The growth of our people, our clients, and our country, to serve the growth of our people. The fertile soil that serves the growth of our people, our clients, and our country, by means of creativity. Fascinating, you know, and it's really changed the business. And also defining what that word means is much more important even than the word. But the word is like the sperm, you know, like what's most important, what the human being becomes, or the little, well, the one can't exist without the other. But the more profound one is actually what that little ignition point, what that becomes, creates the impact. So the one word is that little ignition point, but the real statement is actually where the hard work lies. Because if I just say our purpose is growth, people go, well, all business wants to grow. But no, our purpose is to grow our people, our clients, and our country. And when a big international group comes and make us a fat offer, we make a strategic decision to say no based on our purpose, because we don't want our money to leave our country. We don't want our taxes to leave our country. So yeah, just a bit of a slight insight into this thing called purpose.
I love it. I love that, and I love that clarity that you've just brought to that whole thing of, what is it that you're bringing to your client? And as you said, it's not beauty, it's confidence. And you're absolutely right. I mean, someone goes to get their nails done, and afterwards they feel so much more confident about themselves. And so, that's the essence. I love that. You said earlier, you asked 10 executives, what's the purpose? Bring one word, and you got 10 different answers. And amazing if you could get all of them to say, okay, confidence is what we bring, and then take that down into the company.
Yeah. And then suddenly, when you know that that's what the business stands for, and maybe then your let's say your statement, which always starts with a 2, because then it becomes active. It's like you can activate it.
Mm-hmm.
So my personal statement is to bring out the best in those around me. That's why I exist. That's why I'll jump at the opportunity for a platform like this, because that's why I write my books. That's why I do every single thing. That's why I took my son on his journey around the country, because I want to bring out the best in him. That's why I'm into developing myself, because in order to bring out the best in others, best I'll be the best I can be. Can't just leave it pointing fingers. 3 fingers point back. The work starts with ourselves. But if beauty was, or if that self-confidence was to leave every customer more confident than they enter our doors. Let's say that's why our business exists, to leave every customer with more confidence than they enter our doors. Now, suddenly, it might even start influencing the narrative that my beauticians have. Maybe we start doing a little bit of development work for them, that they almost becomes little mini psychologists, in a way. Maybe there's some prompting questions. Maybe they get some business coaching on the side to make them better, to deal with people that might start spilling the guts and say, like, I feel really crap, my boss shouted at me today. And then, you develop the whole brand, and suddenly that brand starts differentiating itself from other brands. So it can influence the way you deal with your customers, how you answer your phone, the products you develop. Maybe you develop your own range of beauty products that you call confidence. And suddenly your customers you open up another line item for your business, which you thought was a beauty store. But I think a product called confidence, let's say as a face moisturizer, will sell more than beauty, because maybe I don't feel I'm beautiful. Because beauty and fashion and all these things always use models, which is probably 1 in 1,000 people look like George Clooney. So no, but I'm not beautiful, so I don't relate to beauty, but hell, confidence is a beautiful thing to see. Literally, I've seen pictures. In fact, it's not a picture. It was what was it in? It was in a book. It was a Roald Dahl book, where the little illustration, they spoke about when you're angry, how ugly you look, and when you're happy, how beautiful you look. You don't need to be physically beautiful to look beautiful. You just need to be happy. Beautiful. So it's that kind of thinking, which is so much more inspiring, and it just opens up your mind to do so much more than just having a beauty store. Wow.
I love the way you think, and I love how this whole conversation's gone around, and we've actually created something absolutely amazing, with confidence. Wonderful, Pepe. I want to ask you about you're the founder and chairman of One School at a Time. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I've got another, and again, I'm always very conscious whenever I speak about it, because now I've been in this for 15 years. I've done my master's on it. I'm in a doctorate on it. I talk about it all the time, like, but it's still just a methodology. It's a belief. I always say believing is seeing, for sure. So I believe in it to a high level. So I'm seeing a lot happening. My vision, I never had a purpose. I just had a vision. I was poor. I want to be rich. Very simple. I want to make X million rand, buy 50, buy a yacht, sail the world. That was my vision. I was very clear on it. X amount, I had a very clear number of millions, my 50, buy a yacht, retire, sail the world. It was my greatest ambition. I loved what I do. I had a high level of integrity, but in the back of my head, my driving force was money. I end up bankrupt. So I end up with nothing. I couldn't even afford a rubber duck. So it's like when I found purpose, I realized that, you know, business books teach that you start a business with a vision. I will absolutely disagree with it. Well, you can start with a vision, but that vision will be self-serving and will never take that business to its true potential. Because a vision in absence of purpose mostly, almost always, will be self-serving. But when you base your vision on a purpose, so the vision of our business is to create an ecosystem of sustainable growth. So we're building a bigger group of companies now, and all we aspire to is an ecosystem of sustainable growth that can create more jobs. It's not monetary. In my personal life, what happened when I found my purpose, my vision became to create a country that's a shining example to the world. So that became my big driving force. I want to be part of a country that's a shining example to the world. And my how to do that became education based, because 22,000 of the 27,000 schools in South Africa are factually dysfunctional. So we're feeding dysfunctional people into a dysfunctional economy, where 1% of our country earns 67% of all the income, and the 19% middle class earns 26% of all the income, and 80% of this country lives off 7% of all the income. That is not sustainable. So because of that, it became schooling, and then that's a very daunting ambition. You know, these visions come up when it's based on purpose from who knows where. And I took it seriously, but it did not sound achievable. Because how does one ad guy with some hippie ideas change the educational system? And then I was, not me, but inspired by my strategic business partner, Laurent, gave me that insight. And he said, dude, just start with one school and see where it lands. So that's why One School at a Time was launched in 2008. And we've systematically worked with our one school, which was 600 and whatever it was, 670 something township school in Gauteng. It's now in the top 3 for the second year running. And I'm not interested in moving beyond one school, because for me, the only way to fix education is through government. And my mentor gave me the insight. He said, you're mad, you're never going to achieve that because government's useless. He said it, not me. But I was inspired to then think, this is where this whole thing came up of purpose for leaders before you can change systems. So my other how is, and that's why I am doing my doctorate, is can I in the future play a part in assisting government to unlock the purpose of this country? Because I believe that if we find a purpose for this country and we unite 60 million people behind one notion of why this, there's no other country in the world that's got that. Potentially only Bhutan, who talks of happiness. They've got the gross national happiness indicator. So to me, there's a sense that that country, and I'll go and visit them during this journey now. I'll go to Bhutan to go and see how real this notion of happiness is in that country, that they don't have a GDP, which is your bottom line. They've got a happiness indicator. But other than that, out of the whatever 200 whatever odd countries in the world, there's no country with purpose. So maybe potentially that could be what I can help with in the future of my life. So that's sort of also a driving force behind everything I do.
Wow, wow. That's similar to Steve Jobs. Having a greater purpose.
A little dent. I'm inspired just because everything, you know, and of course you hear the horrible things about Steve Jobs, and I mean, to think that we limit ourselves, of course. So even myself thinking, go like, oh, that's arrogant. No, just think bigger. Wherever it lands, that's in the greater universe's hands, but to open our own minds to our own potential is the trick. But, you know, yeah, I wouldn't mind being the Apple of the advertising industry, at the very least, this business, because what that would do for our country as well, you know, to show that this country can spawn that level, because the international businesses in our industry are exceptionally great at what they do. But yeah, I think it is completely achievable. So let's see where it goes.
Fantastic, Pepe. Well, I wish you all the best with that. I wanted to ask you, with regard to, you know, being, you call yourself a founder, but you're also the group chief creative officer. And here we're talking about CEOs, and I wonder how can we as CEOs and the CEO Club and I Need an Expert help you in your business, and how can you help us? What is your big ask?
Look, the first question you said, how can we help you?
Yes.
If I think just on a selfish level, the mere fact that you are creating a platform that enables me to share this thinking to other leaders, that's a massive service to me, you know. So that's on the one side. If you say, how can I help you, or how can Joe Public, but I would more just speak for myself. You know, this business of ours is in flow at the moment. It's bursting. But for myself, there's two things. I mean, I can obviously assist just to spread the good work you're doing through all our channels, but I also can put myself out there and say, look, if there's ever a need for me to do some work with any of your clients or any of your circle of influence in terms of purpose, I can definitely avail myself for that.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the sort of question answer, but that's kind of what came up with that question that you asked. Because I'm very aware of synchronicity at the moment, and things happen and I'm just following the flow with it. But from a business point of view, I'm reluctant to say anything Joe Public can do at the moment, because we're struggling to just maintain delivering on our clients. It's going crazy. You know, this is what purpose does, because what happened in lockdown, one of our biggest clients, revenue shut down because of some of the mandates of the government. And we worked flat out. I remember 7 days a week just to negate this tricky situation. And we refused to charge them. In a time when our revenue dropped, we made a decision not to make profit. We just wanted to keep people in jobs. And we made a decision not to drop any salaries, because people's livelihoods were already under pressure. And we dropped our own personal salaries because myself and Gareth, because we basically positioned to be able to do that. And we contributed that money to feed people. So we did a lot of stuff, but I don't think we would have done that if that business didn't have a greater purpose. And then the wheel turned, because as we came out of 2020 into 2021, 2022, you know, all those actions which were never done, because that's the other trick. You know, what you give, the more you give, the more you get. But if you give to get, you won't get back. That I've learned in a big way through bankruptcy. Trying to do stuff to look good doesn't come back. You have to, I don't know how that works. I hope one day when we die, there's some briefing system, or like a at the gates of wherever we go. There's like a brief and say, okay, this is what was actually going on, because we don't know what's going on. But it's quite magical and profound what is going on, because I know for a fact, when I do something for my ego, so everything I say at the moment, there's not an ounce of my ego speaking here. It might come across here and there that I'm name dropping, or I might come across maybe as slightly arrogant or overly confident, or not at all. I'm coming 100% from wanting to serve whoever listens to this, to open a door to a new opportunity. Because I've seen now over 15 years, before that, I was doing what I was doing for self-gain and for my ego's sake. I was I did a fundraiser to give to orphanages. But when I had to think about why I was doing why I did it, because after that is when I went bankrupt, I realized I did it because I liked the notion of saying Pepe is such a great guy. Because I just felt I'm not good enough. I didn't do it to really help the people. I did it to reflect positively on me. I did not start one school at a time for that reason. I did it in full service of other human beings. And the getting back is so profound. So I would say just if it's a very subtle shift, but it's spectacularly enriching. It's almost, serving others is very selfish because it makes you feel good about yourself in any case. Just inherently makes you feel that you're worthy. So it's actually quite a selfish act, being in service of others, because it does come back naturally. You just feel good about yourself in very subtly and intrinsically. That's why anything I do a lot, I don't advocate any of it. It wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be right.
I think it's a very important life lesson you just mentioned. And, I've been reading a book called The Anatomy of Peace. I don't know if you've read this book. It's amazing. I don't know if you can see it there, Anatomy of Peace.
Yeah.
And it talks about, is your heart at war or is your heart at peace? And it's about the whole thing about when you're heart at peace, you see the other person as a person, you see them with needs, and you see them with wants, and you see them as you are. When you're at war, you see them as they're there as an object, something that you want to derive something from. There's an alternative. You need something back from them. And I think what you've mentioned is you've encompassed that very beautifully. Thank you, Pepe.
Sorry, just a last quick little thing on that. I know we're probably running out of time, but I read now with my readings, because you show me a book, I'm like, I don't have time to read it. I have to read like other people's research. But I came across a reading that at a universal level, whether you serve one person or 1,000 people, you vibrate at the same level. To me, that means that if your purpose is just to be a great father, you are as significant as the person who's going to change the world. You vibrate at no higher or lower. The person who does more in service of others, of more people, is not more impactful than the person that just makes a difference to one, because that one could become a president and lead the country out of demise. The big insight is when you do that for self-gain, the vibration, the universal vibration, just drops to nothing. So you could find that the person who serves one authentically vibrates at a higher level than the one who serves 1,000. And this is at a universal. That's why I'm saying quantum physics and the research that's being done. We really are in a magical system. We tend to label things as bad, but anything bad inspires good. And if you're in the business of creativity and solutions and innovation, you need problems. Otherwise, you'll never move forward. And it's just seeing the world in this new way that I think can help inspire us to be more as leaders and as businesses and as a country.
Oh, Pepe, thank you so much. We'd have to have another interview sometime because there's so much more I want to ask you. But I think what we've done is we've gone over time. So I'm going to ask you just two last things, if I may, and then one question that I see Gerrit's put on the chat. Is there anyone who's put a chat on here? Let's just see. No. So what I'd like to ask you is your winning aspiration. What would that be?
I've got a definition of success, what real success is. And I know I'm not there yet, because this applies to my work life, which is not where it should be according to my definition, the definition of success. And I'm going to use that to answer this question. And it will also apply, which shows me the huge amount of work I still have to do on myself. But it is ultimately to create an environment of harmony and joy, where the focus is on the well-being of people and growing them to be the best they can be. Like, profoundly so, but at the core of the statement is harmony and joy. And that's what I'm working to, because when I get there, so my one home is called Harmony, which we've just finished renovating, and my other home at the Vaal River is called Joy. And those homes have got those as their purposes, and they've got a set value set. But as always, it's implementing that. It's not about putting a sign on the wall, it's living the sign. And it's a living part that I'm still working at. And the same for our business. There's huge growth gaps between different departments, and to get everyone at the same level. And when you're not operating at the same level, there's always dissonance every single day. And it's to get that equilibrium balanced out, and then in doing so create harmony in a very stressful industry and trading environment, where people have got so many fears. So I would say my definition of true success is having created that, where people just love what they do, and they feel at peace, and they experience joy and fun. Because we spend 60-70% of our lives working, and then we go, hey, it's Friday and we can't wait for the weekend. And Sunday night we throw up because Monday is so stressful. That's a terrible way to live. So I want to counter that and be part of the creation of a place where people really experience joy.
Harmony and joy. Wow, beautiful. And I love the fact that you've actually named your homes that, and you're living that, and that's the whole thing. That's what you do. Wow. Pepe, it's really been wonderful listening to you and interviewing you today. I feel that you've really given so much, and you've given some beautiful golden nuggets there, huge learning insights, and it's just been such a pleasure from my side and from the CEO Business Club to interview. Thank you very much. The last question from me, and then one from Gerrit, and that is, how do people get hold of you?
So I'm very, very good on my email. That's my platform. I'm on LinkedIn as well. I'm good on LinkedIn. I respond to every single person. So LinkedIn, you can just look for Pepe Marais. I like that platform. Twitter has become too toxic. And then my email is pepe, P-E-P-E, @joepublic, joepublic.co.za. And then if people reach out, when I wrote my first book, it was quite an experience. I had between 1 and 5 requests every single day for 18 months, 7 days a week. It was fascinating. And I knew I was onto something. And I managed to respond and engage with people. So I make time to engage with people, because that's my purpose, to bring out the best in those around me. So if I can get one nugget of, and again, I've got such a long way to grow. I've got so many challenges. You said, naming my homes is one thing, living that, coming home and not kicking the dog. That's the challenge, I'm saying that facetiously. I've never kicked the animal, but I'm just saying, like that kind of like, how do I come home at peace and at ease? I mostly do. I must say, I'm so blessed to do what I love. My family always go, not my wife, she's my greatest support, but my mum, she's with me now. They're like, jy werk te hard. Jy werk hard. They don't understand. When you love what you do, you don't work. Yeah.
Oh, that's a blessing that you've got your mom and your family with you. That really is a blessing. I'm going to ask you Gerrit's question quickly. He says here, and I'm just going to read it. It's in the chat. Please share your sentiments of CEOs/founders towards professional customer service as a recovery strategy given COVID-19.
Okay, so always these questions have got so many layers. So I just go with instantly what my gut responds. I think the greatest recovery strategy is excellence. It really and truly is. If I can give any advice, purpose, of course, it's the silver bullet. So difficult to find. In the absence of it, if you can just give 10 Rand for every 1 Rand that you paid, because this thing about value exchange has left us poorer. There's a beautiful book called The Art of Possibility, where they speak of the 2 cities, scarcity and generosity. We operate in scarcity. You pay me 1 Rand, I give you 1 Rand value. I've seen a massive shift when it, in fact, even through lockdown, we went, you give me 1 rand, I'll give you 10. And I think that's the greatest recovery strategy. So in terms of service and product, give more value than what you paid for. It's the best recovery strategy that you can have. And of course, it's difficult if you don't have capital. We were fortunate. The gift out of bankruptcy was that my partner, Gareth, became a hoarder, and he hoarded a crap load of cash. And all kudos to him, because he realized the impact on the business that happened through lack of capital. And hence, he became very, very strict with dividend declaration, making sure the money's got enough capital in it. And of course, it's easy to say all these things, having that almost like mattress to take care of you. But I would still maintain that what has helped us trade through this time is an obsession with excellence.
Wow, thank you so much. Pepe, thank you very much for being here today. It's been a pleasure having you, and thank you to Joe Public as well, and to all the things that you're doing. And I wish you all the best in achieving what you need to achieve and what you've set out to do. Great aspirations, great nuggets, and I thank you. And yeah, thank you.
Thanks, David. And thanks to you and Gerrit just for the platform. And yeah, I really appreciate that as well. It's not, it's not taken for granted. So really appreciate it.
Fantastic.